Today in this video, we're going to be breaking down a 12 City of Threads that I think we did, I believe it was last week now. But I wanted to spend some time in this video breaking down the run, everything we did, whether it was right or wrong, talk about my build and what I'm doing each pull. Now this video is going to be a little bit different from my other commentary because I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time hyper-focusing on certain pulls and maybe fast-forwarding through some that I don't think are as relevant or don't have anything specific going on. So let me know what you think about this format. I've already done commentaries for pretty much every other dungeon up to this point, including everything from 9s at the very start of the season all the way up to 11s. So now that we're getting into 12s, I really want to start breaking down more nuanced things for the Brewmaster specifically. And I also want to preface that the Xalatath affix no longer exists in this key in terms of like that weekly Kiss Curse affix. What ends up replacing that is a flat 10% and 10% healing, or not, sorry, health increase to a single one of the mobs and bosses. We are running a Ret Paladin, a Fury Warrior, and a Augmentation Evoker, as well as a Holy Priest. I don't remember which hero talents they were playing. I'll leave the permalink down below if you're interested in going and looking at that if you'd like. Let's see, can I actually full screen this? Oh, I can full screen this. Sick. So we're starting off by using this buff here. For those who don't know, engineers, rogues, as well as priests can activate this, and it's going to give us a pretty sizable damage and health increase or healing increase for this first pull, which we're also going to be committing Lust to. Now you can see here that I actually have star marked as a set focus. This means that I'm going to be kicking the Web Bolt, and other members of my group are going to be kicking the other Silk Binder once it's assigned to a kick, and we're going to be pulling it in with these other Scarabs. Now, early on in this pull, I want to commit a lot of defensive cooldowns. It's a pretty scary pull, especially with these Venom Strikes. So I'm going to be committing Dampen Harm pretty early on. I probably should have hit it a little bit earlier. I also should have used Weapons of Order already, but I have not. Here it comes. But most of the Scarabs are dead. Thank you guys for the follows, by the way. I really appreciate it. I have been streaming a lot more keys lately, so check me out. I'll make sure that the link is actually accurate in the description below. The big thing here is making sure you're kicking. Tanks, the Venom Blade casts, having a dispel for it is really good. We obviously have a Evoker who can do poison dispels, and we also have a Ret Paladin. The group damage that it's referring to here, you see this text popping on my screen. This is a custom weak orb that I made for myself, just so I have a text reminder if there's frontal or group damage. The group damage is the swarm. That's what healers want to generally be prepared for. Our next pull is going to be this one Silk Binder. I'm going to get the first kick on it, and then hopefully someone else gets another kick. I don't remember if we were assigning it here. It looks like Nama did. And then I'm going to be pulling in this patrol, this other big old beefy boy, the Swarm Guard. These Scarabs will die pretty quick. This Silk Binder allows us to not have to pull an extra pack towards the end of the dungeon, so that's why we're pulling it into this pull. It's also just more efficient to have 2-target cleave rather than just single targeting a mob down. You're going to benefit from things like Divine Storm, dot amplifications, as well as just like general cleave. This pull isn't scary, so basically the way that this route works is you have a really big scary pull with Lust and you send all your CDs. This pull is going to be a little bit more tame. The next pull is going to be like medium difficulty, but we're going to have one of these obelisks, the buffs that we had in the first pull. And then the next pull after that is going to be very challenging, and then we go into boss. And this is pretty much it. So let's fast forward a little bit here if I remember how to. So we'll just fast forward, I guess, maybe not 30 seconds. I'm learning. So the Swarm Guard goes down. And what we're going to do now is we're going to click this obelisk. We don't want to get too close. We don't want to pull these mobs here. These mobs are dangerous. It's triple caster. These big spider guys are like probably the most dangerous thing in here, especially for a melee comp. So we want to avoid that. So we're going to get our little suck there. We're going to have 30 seconds of this buff. I'm going to kick on the right so we can group it all up. Exploding Keg to get early threat. I'm playing with a very bursty comp with no MD as in misdirection. So I want to make sure I'm sending Exploding Keg, not necessarily to optimize my damage, to make sure that my DPS don't rip threat, because that's probably the worst thing that could happen in any type of dungeon like this. And while Brewmasters aren't necessarily bad at maintaining threat, for the builds that we're currently running, we kind of have to drop a little bit more of our damage to get survivability. And when you do that, you naturally run into the instances where, okay, now very bursty, high critical strike-based classes are just going to just rip. This pull's pretty tame, though. So as we go forward a little bit, we're going to be able to see what the next pull is going to look like. So there's one caster. This is the scary mob everyone needs to focus down. There's another Scarab or Swarm Guard that does big AoE damage as well as a frontal. And then we have a lot of meleeing Scarabs. So right now the plan is, okay, we need to make sure we're getting threat on all of these as well as kicking. Generally, I like to get the first kick as the tank so I can then focus on getting threat. I'm not going to pull in the second set of Scarabs yet until our group feels nice and healthy. I do have an Ox statue down here, so when the mobs eventually come in, I should be able to AoE taunt them. We're making sure that we're kicking. This requires a 3-kick rotation, so luckily we have 3 melee. As you can see, someone ripped on the Swarm Guard, so I had to taunt it. Therefore, I didn't have damage, or I didn't have an AoE taunt for the Scarabs. Luckily, I was able to get an Exploding Tag off there to get threats. And then we went into a Chi Burst. And as you can see, I am playing Master of Harmony, so now I'm going to utilize that damage I just was able to expel onto our enemies to have a big dot that's going to maintain threat as well as heal me, or keep me alive. Those orbs are very deadly. You just missed it. We got a dispel there, but if it's a ranged player, they need to move far out and make sure the angles aren't hitting the group. So essentially, QB's going to move out so the orbs go around melee. So we don't have to worry about it. You can see the orb went out this way and it went out this way. Very good positioning from our evoker there. And then Twist Thoughts. And then basically, we're just going to finish up this pull. So let's fast forward a little bit. So moving into this pull then here, I like to start the boss by pulling him off to the right-hand side a little bit. A big tank hit comes out right away. I don't use anything for it. I should have. It was dangerous for me not to. I had Dampen Harm available. I also had 1 Celestial Brew charge that I could have used, which reminds me I need to update this weak ore to actually show because I haven't been... I didn't make this weak ore while playing Master of Harmony, so yeah. Anyways, the idea with this fight is you're going to get 2 tank busters every cycle. And what I mean by cycle is like a full set of mechanics. Once the poop drops and you move, it starts to cycle anew. Now, the general strat here is to dispel your friends, and this is coming from the healer. Dispel your friends once the frontal animation appears so everyone can pre-position. There isn't a lot of healing required on this fight. It's deceptive because it's 1 big damage instance, but I'm going to take the tank buster here. I actually ended up using, I believe I used Dampen Harm for that one. But Shadows of the Doubt come out, these orbs. Do not dispel right away. Actually, we also got a Spell Reflect, so there's only 1. You wait for this frontal, and then you dispel when people are safe and not in the frontal. That's how you kind of want to do this fight. Subject Gate comes out again. I have Diffuse Magic that looks like it's about to fade. I think it was still on, so Diffuse Magic's good there. It does magic. It does physical and shadow damage, so you're going to mitigate a good portion of it with Diffuse Magic. So now we're moving. So what I like to do is I do first drop, second drop, third drop, then we move over, and then we do another. So this is 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to keep working our way around the room. This boss doesn't reset till you're like way down here. So you're chilling. And this is the name of the game. So it's basically it's Tank Buster, frontal, orbs. Orbs will come out. We got another Spell Reflect. Warriors are OP. I need to watch this orb right here. So it's then orb gets dispelled with the frontal. Once the frontal animation is out and no one's standing in it, then it's a Tank Buster, and then it's poop. And now we're going to move towards ping. Be careful about standing in these corpses. It's really hard to see the orbs if you are. You can't even see my Ox statue. And then we're shifting over. So basically every rotation of Tank Buster, I'm either using Celestial Brew or I'm using a cooldown. I'm still sitting on Fortifying Brew and I still have access to my health pot, as you can see down here. Now I have a Black Ox Brew for a refresh if I need. Debuffs come out, frontal comes out, then we dispel. That dispel was a little early. Oh, it's actually because he bubbled. You want to be careful on bubbling there because sent the orbs out. If I got stunned there, I probably could have died. And this is the rotation. So we're just making our way downtown. All right, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to go into this fight too much longer. It's a pretty easy fight. We drop another pool here, then we bring it up into this corner, and then now we run across the bridge. So coming up here, when we are approaching this bridge, we are pulling the mini-boss. We're going to set focus on the mini-boss because he has his Web Bolt cast. I like to get first, and then we're tagging this one little image right here because it spawns one of the Queen's Guard, so we can get 2-target cleave. And while 2-target cleave isn't the most efficient cleave for most classes, it is additional damage that we can at least start getting onto this Eye of the Queen. So when we're just facing off against the Eye of the Queen, it's already at lower health, or vice versa. This mini boss Zesfikatiki, I don't know how to say that. I think he stops fighting at like 50% or 40% or something. So you don't really have to get him all that low. So people should be focusing the Queen. This guy's not very hard to deal with. Looks like 45% is where he phased at there. Basically, when you're fighting him, it's dodge swirls, kick bolts, and that's kind of it. This Queen does a lot of damage whenever they do their little dash. The Null Slam is just obnoxious. But anyways, we're going to fast forward a little bit here. Once the mini-boss dies, you're always going off to the left. This is just for route efficiency. This is for time. There's no mob here. This is where we're first checking. If the images are across the path here, it's going to be inside. If you don't see images here, it's going to be this pack. The first 2 packs of these RPs, or I should say, I guess technically the first 3, they don't really have a lot going on. There's like a little bit of AoE damage that comes out from the from the Queen. This Pursuiter and Marauder, they just like melee the tank and throw knives. Not a big deal. You're always focusing the Queen as much as you can, because as soon as you focus the Queen, you can start moving with these other mobs. But the Queen is a little bit annoying to move, because they do the Null Slam, they do their little like rush that goes around. Luckily, you can actually use spell animations that are still on the mob to see the target. So Breath of Fire is actually still going there, so we're able to see where the mob is. So all we have to do is like walk away a little bit. Everyone should be near melee for healing. This Void Rush is very scary. It's going to go on all the players. You ideally want to use a defensive on it or have healing. It's very good. We kept everyone up. And then that's pretty much it. As soon as this pack dies, what we're doing is we are now going to the furthest area away from where we start RP. So we're going to be going to the back left. Basically, you can look right here. There's no mob standing right here. If there's a mob next to this counter in front, that means you go here. There's not. So we're going to the back 2. The back 2, the rule of thumb, is that you'll actually, if the images are going up the stairs and down, it's going to be down here. If there's images here, it's going to go to the back. But since there's no images here, it must be on the stairs, meaning that the mob is going to be down here in this like little overlook balcony area. So I know that I'm going to just be able to jump right here. It's this guy chilling. So here we go. We're jumping in. We're going to tag him with a Keg Smash. I probably shouldn't, because I don't know if Keg Smash stays or not, but there is a Webmancer in this pack instead. So this is what you want to set focus to, and make sure you're kicking Bolt as well as the heal. Nama rips Threat there because Threat here is really buggy. This is a great area for Ox Statue. If you place the Ox Statue down going into the pole, right when the mobs spawn, you can AoE taunt them, generating additional threat. So your first Keg Smash, Breath of Fire, Spinning Cream Kick, whatever have you, does additional damage. Nothing much to this pole, so we're going to skip ahead. This next area is, I don't know if the third location actually exists anymore, because I feel like I haven't seen it there like literally since week 1. But if you see images going up the stairs here, you're safe. Oh, this is really funny. So I'm going to try to make it through here, and I don't. But I do get caught. It's not going to kill me, but if you could see here, it actually makes enough of a gap where my group can now run through, which is actually kind of a 5-head play by me. Super genius. Didn't mean to do it, because it was just funny. Anyways, my group is now running up the stairs. They're checking over in that far corner. If you notice that it just got dark, I was using Stinky Bright Potions. These images are they're looping around here. As you can see, they're actually coming out in front. Or no, sorry, they're going that way. If you see images in front of the building going that way, oh, actually, hold on. I'm sorry, I messed up. They're going like around to lead you over here. So I'm trying to catch up. My priest life grips me through this again, and I got caught. So don't life grip people is what we learned. Anyways, we waste 30 seconds. We get into this pole here, and this one has 4. It has a Pursuer, a Marauder, and a Webmancer. Queen is still priority. Set focus. Make sure you're kicking. Knife throw from Pursuer just adds a little bit of additional damage that you need to spot heal. And of course, you want to heal through the group damage from the Queen while focusing the Queen down in terms of damage, because once you kill the Queen, you can start RP despite these mobs still being alive. And because we're in this corner, the RP starts over here. So we can actually start RP as soon as the Queen dies, and we can get that going. Anyways, we're going to waste about a minute or so doing RP, and now we're in the Nix and Fix arena. I have an Ox Statue down. This is going to help get initial threat, and sometimes the mobs will actually immediately run at the statue and not cast start their cast sequences yet, so it's an easy way to group them up. Let's see if it actually works here. No, so it's just the one, actually. I should have had it a little bit more centered. Anyways, sack them when you can. Dodge the frontal. This fight is very easy for tanks in the first phase, and in the second phase it's very hard for tanks, but Brewmasters do a very good job at it. One other thing to note is you're going to see these purple pools on the ground. You can see it right underneath our group. These do not do damage, but they do replicate the Slash and the Duskbringer. So that's why you need to be aware of these, despite them not doing damage by standing in them when they're basically dormant. We're baiting against the wall here, as you can see, and this is for Synergic Step. They dash into the wall and they don't move. So this is very good for melee uptime. They'll jump back a little bit, but it's better than them dashing across the room. Then they port to the middle, and we're going to be doing the same thing, ideally along this wall, pending weird boss teleportation, which sometimes happen in this phase. So now in this phase, Vix is the one that moves and Nyx is the one that stays still. This Rhyme Dagger is the big damage. Everyone should group soak it, and you basically want to rotate a defensive every single one. Diffuse magic will be up first for every single set. So I recommend starting with Diffuse, and then the second time you do like Dampen with Celestial Brew. Everyone's standing here. The boss ports to a kind of an awkward location. Actually better for us because we're towards the wall. These are going to be the replicated Duskbringers, as you can see. Watch this pool. Second set, I'm using Celestial Brew. Very chill fight when everyone group stacks. We also were using some AoE damage reduction, which is great. Look at this pool underneath us. That means the Duskbringer, when it goes off, it will spawn underneath us. Luckily, because of spell queuing, we actually ended up not getting the Duskbringer there, which is really good. As long as one of the mobs dashes in place, we're good. You know, obviously one went kind of far away, but that's fine. Sometimes it happens. And now we're going back into phase 1. This fight repeats itself. Tanks don't necessarily need to use a lot of defensive in phase 1 outside of maybe like just Celestial Brew. It's really on your group to stay alive during this part, and then in phase 2 it's really on the tank. So let's just fast forward 30 seconds. Here's the start of phase 2 for the second time. You can see my diffuse magic is coming up in 5. They're literally a minute and a half apart. So diffuse magic is very OP for the first one, and then you're going to be using things like either like Dampen or a Celestial Brew with a Black Ox reset on your second. Stacks are cleared. We're looking really good. We also have Zephyr for next, which is also really good. Augmentation Evoker is great. As you can see here, I just commit the Celestial Brew and a Fort Brew. I'm still sitting on Dampen Harm for some reason. I should have just used it. It's not a big deal though, because we're going to be able to utilize it on Trash after this. And that's pretty much the fight. The phase will eventually go down at I think the end of our second phase, or our third phase 1, the boss goes down, and we're big vibing. Last Duskbringer, should have just committed. I don't know why we ran out. I have Touch of Death anyways. I should have just killed. So this next area, we have to do like 3 pulls before going up the stairs. We're going to break it up. We have plenty of time. The idea is you want to be done with this boss around the 18-minute mark in a 12. Which is perfect for us. Or I guess more or less the 19-minute mark. You need about 15 minutes to clear the last, like, this area, 3rd boss, and then 4th boss. Those mini bosses definitely eat up a lot of time. I was thinking about doubling here once we had CDs, but I decided not to because we felt fine on time. Plus, these mobs absolutely fuck. I have a lot of defensives, but we don't have powerful things like a Resto Shaman or an Elemental Shaman or like an Assassination Rogue or something like that. Like, we're missing out on like some pretty powerful group utility in terms of like lockdown. So we won't be able to lock down as many casts. Therefore, I'll fall over despite having decent defensives. Once this guy goes down, though, we're going to end up chaining here. This next pull's pretty scary. There's a lot of, like, tank damage that goes on. There aren't really a lot of kicks. I am going to actually mount up and repair just in case because my gear is a little bit broken. And we're going to just roll right in. The Marauder slaps the tank, and the Pursuers do knife throws, which is just, like, spot healing. The healer is going to be fine with that. Og knocks up there. I start with Dampen Harmon. I roll that into a Weapons of Order. And then if I need to, I will eventually use Fortifying Brew to keep myself nice and healthy. And then I will also commit another Celestial Brew at some point here. I'm still kind of ramping up my Master of Harmony. Actually, at this point, I'm feeling pretty healthy. Conscripts have died. They put a nasty debuff on you that stacks. It's right now at 5, which means I take more and more damage from each application. And the only way to remove it is by letting it fall off. So the next pull is going to be a little scary when I go in, but I have Celestial Brew available. I have a Black Ox Brew reset. I will have Diffuse Magic for just like the random Webmancer cast if I need to. I also have Zen Med if I need to roll away. We have Leg Sweep. We have Ring of Peace. There's a lot of ways for us to mitigate damage here. So I start with Celestial Brew. I still have the reset if I need it. And I think that's pretty much it. So Mending Web is important to kick for sure. It does a very big heal. But if you let it go off, it's like, as long as your group's not wiping, it's good. The name of the game this season has been basically live. If you live to the end of the key and your damage isn't total shit, you'll time it. Once you start failing keys when you have a perfect run, that's when you might need to start looking to double up or coordinating cooldowns a little bit better if you're playing with like a pre-made group. Obviously, if you're playing with like meta DPS, they naturally do a lot more damage without having to plan around stuff. But in this group, what I'm looking for is Paladins have a ton of CDs, but their big damage is actually based off their trinket use, which is a 1.5-minute cooldown. This is the Scar Murok Shard from Stonevault. And then Warriors have big cooldowns every 1.5-minute too. So ideally, 1.5-minute is when we should be using big CDs. Realistically, I should have maybe pulled in the big guy here. But again, we are playing it rather be safe than sorry. This pull isn't very scary for tanks, but it is annoying because there's, I think, triple caster or double caster. 2 Webmancers need to be kicked on both their blasts as well as their heal. So as long as you're doing that, lockdowns like knockups from the AUG, obviously kicks, as well as things like Lake Sweep, Shockwave, Stormbolt, whatever have you. So we get both of the kicks there. And as these mobs start to die, I'm going to start trying to chain up into this. Unfortunately, they keep casting, but I don't want to fight on the stairs. I'm trying to like make sure they're over there because we don't have a ranged DPS. It's kind of awkward when mobs stay out for a long period of time because they just kind of live. Now in this pull, Poison Cleansing Totem has been the saving grace, but if not, having Poison Dispels are really good. If not, you just need to commit some big CDs here. We have Nama's Shout. We still have Zephyr. We also have 3 Dispels. So realistically, it should be QB could dispel himself. Our Paladin Epi can dispel himself as well, and I should be able to dispel our Priest, so Nama just needs to big man Zug. But the thing is, Fury Warriors generally have a lot of survivability, and so do Paladins. So Nama's kind of taken a lot of damage there. I dispel in the last 4 seconds just to alleviate our healer a little bit. The dot lasts for 12, so if you dispel right away, you can get a second dispel towards the end of the cast, and you should only see 2. We might get a third here. No, we'll touch a death. Going left is a little bit easier. Going right, I think, yields more percent, but going left has less knockbacks, and we're good on percent. Like, we know our route. So these 2 unnaturalists, or unnaturalers, whatever they're called, they do a void wave, which knocks everyone back, which doesn't do a ton of damage, but it gets annoying because you might get knocked into those webbed victims on the ground, which spawns enemies, which you just don't need or want. That's just annoying. So we're going to do this first pull. Once these mobs start to die, I'm going to go and pull additional mobs on top of this because this guy just lives forever. Actually, I forgot about this. QB is running down into the boss room to grab the slimes. The slimes are now coming up. These droplets have to be killed before the boss can spawn, and there's about 10 seconds of boss RP. So you do want to try to pull them a little bit earlier so you can spawn the boss while you're still dealing with the rest of the trash. Now, we like to clear to the end of the hallway because it'll just make it easier after boss not to have to do a pack. You can just go right into mini bosses. The argument is there is still mini boss spawn RP that if you were just killing this pack anyways, you'd be able to start. But that's fine. So when you first pull this guy, he spawns swirls, but I think you can only spawn them if they're in line of sight. So what we do is we're standing at the top of the stairs. There's not much going on unless we were in line, which actually we were there. And then the rest of the droplets and these assistants, I pull onto the subject, and the subject is just going to get, we're single targeting at this point. The assistants don't do much. The droplets don't do much. They're just meleeing the tank. Tanks are typically pretty efficient against melee attacks, especially Brewmaster. So we're just vibing. Now the subject's left. Realistically, this is a very good point for a Night Elf healer, which realistically you should be playing this season if you can, should go off and meld and get a drink after this fierce stomp. And then they should be drinking here so you can go right into boss. I'm starting to kind of waddle him a little bit towards the stairs. I could be moving a little bit faster, but I'm just trying to make sure I'm also helping killing him. And I know our healer's going to need a drink anyways because he's not playing Night Elf. That's okay. Mech, if you happen to be watching this, appreciate your heals. All right, so this next fight, I would think that it's probably one of the harder fights in here, and you're going to see me make a really big oopsie. I die in this fight at the very end of the encounter, but let's talk about it. So the ideal strat is, I mean, this is how I like to do it, is you play 4 corners. Once a corner fills up, or fills up a good amount, you move them to the next corner of the room. Because it's kind of square-shaped. While it looks like a circle on the map, that's the stairs around the edge. Play in melee so your healer has sufficient healing. Tank soaks these first 2 orbs in this corner, and then you kind of soak the rest in this corner, if you can, as they come in. Here we go. I'm grabbing 1 more. I'm grabbing 2 here, and then we're rolling to the next corner now that it's filled. We're going to get knocked into the next area, and we're going to do the same thing. Now on the second set, it's going to line up with the Dark Pulse, meaning that you're going to be soaking these orbs as the Dark Pulse comes out, and if anyone is low or has too big of an absorb, they're going to die. Luckily, we have a paladin who's able to run around, bubble, soak all of them, and not take any damage, and I give him Tiger's Lust, so he can do that, and he also had Horse. Or Divine Steed, if we're being appropriate with the names here. And so the first overlap is, I think, the hardest because it actually overlaps with Dark Pulse. The rest of them are a little bit more stagnated, which is good. That corner was now filled, so I'm moving over to this next corner. The Stomp comes out. We're going to soak the 2 in melee. We have to be careful because we have the healing debuff on us from the tank buster. So I don't want to soak too many. Paladin should soak a good bit, but Fury Warrior are insanely good for this fight. They have a ton of self-healing through Bloodthirst and through their just passive leech that they get from their talent tree. So they're just going to always heal the shield off. So Fury Warriors ideally are going to be the ones who get them. We're going to get one more slam here in a second. This is like the big bit of downtime that you're going to have access to. The knockback's going to come out again. I'm going to soak ideally 2 that are close, and then we're going to try to soak the other ones a little bit further out so we leave room in melee. But you can see his energy pool's not even, well, it's almost full, but it's a little bit less than it was the first time we were about to get Dark Pulse. So we're soaking, we're soaking, we're soaking. QB's getting one more, and then we're all going to be in melee. I'm going to soak this last one because I saw that QB had a pretty big absorb. I had a decently sizable expel harm on me, and then we're living. We're going to have shout for the next one, but ideally, if you get a third Dark Pulse, you're first off, the fight's taking too long for you, and also you're just probably going to run out of shit. Or maybe your cooldowns come back up, I don't know. You should be able to kill within the next minute. Got to be careful of the knockback. I'm going to try to pull him out of this pool in a second. I'm letting our kind of melee stay back so they can soak those orbs a little bit further. I'm very low here, and I'm like, I'm not going to soak. I'm going to actually, I'll talk about this later. I'm like, I'm not going to soak. I can't soak. And then I keep soaking more orbs, and then I just get meleeed to death. Not my best moment. I'm going to have the unedited video of this on my Patreon, but it's going to be available to all Patreon members regardless, whether you're free or if you're like a paying member, which of course I appreciate all my Patreons who pay because it allows me to make videos like this, but it'll be there. You can hear the comms. I'm just yelling out, hey, I can't soak for me. And then my group, you can see them trying to soak, and I keep soaking them, and then I soak one more on accident by rolling backwards, and just died. Just peak comedy. I like to pull this mini boss out a little bit. Pulling him out a little bit allows you to not accidentally pull the other mini boss, which often will result in a wipe. The root overlapped with the other guy's AoE can be pretty much lethal. We have almost 7 minutes left. We only need about 4 to 4.5 for boss. So we know that, okay, we're playing it safe. We're going to pull this guy back. Could you double it up with maybe Lust and like CDs? Maybe. But we end up not doing that here. I also, if you notice there, I kind of tilted my camera like briefly. It's because I was chi bursting and I didn't want my chi burst to go into the room and hit the mini boss. So always be aware of that positioning of where you're facing, because if you send your chi burst and it pulls extra mobs, you're not going to feel too good. Roots come out. We're just going to AoE them down. It's not a big deal. We do have freedom and stuff, spell reflect, but it's not a big deal. As long as one person gets free to kick, they just bring them. Then the mob comes back on top of the roots and you just kill them. Not going to be the same for the boss fight. So we're going to go in. We're going to be... This War Shell does an outrageous amount of damage. Healers should not disrespect this boss. The third, I believe, is the overlap. The third Stomp, which I think we end up getting towards the very end. So it's Swarm for group damage, then it's Stomp for group damage, but they don't overlap at all. You want to make sure you're picking up adds. Then Swarm comes out again. We have to make sure we're healing through it. Then it's going to be Tremor Slam here again, which will spawn more adds. Adds aren't a big deal. You can let them just hit your tank. I mean, ideally you kill them faster, but if you have like funnel damage, for example, like a Frost Mage or a Shaman, that's also like, it's good to have them up and available. Swarm comes out here for the third time, and we got 2 Tremor Slams so far. And now right here, this is the scary overlap, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he does Tremor Slam into Swarm. No, so here's the Swarm into Tremor Slam. So you're getting big ticking damage into big burst of damage into adds that spawn. So this is the scariest overlap. You want to save CDs for boss, but committing stuff here because you'll have Lust for the start of the boss fight, you'd rather be safer on this guy and not die than die on the... Or, yeah. Basically, respect this mini boss. He does a ton of damage. Pulling it out of the room, making sure my axe statue's out of the room just in case. And once our healer is good on mana, we're good to go. We have about 4.5 minutes. I think we end up only needing closer to 3. But you obviously want as much time as possible just in case there's deaths, just in case your damage is a little bit slower because you're trying to focus down ads, whatever it might do. Anyways, pull boss, angle him a little bit, and then everyone should not be inside of that triangle of orbs. Range should be towards the outside, as you can see here, and I'm going to be just stacked up with our melee, and every time those orbs start moving, we all back up. Roots come out. I'm going to Tiger's Lust our Evoker. Our Paladin is Freedoming Mech, our Priest, and Nama and I are just going to be in Roots. Nama has the option to Spell Reflect if he wants. You can also Spell Reflect Splice for damage. But getting our range out is way more important than getting our melee out. Our melee have things like immunity. We have things like Enrage Regen. We have a lot of damage for the Root, so it's not a big deal. And then Tremor Slam. Now, these orders can change. Sometimes it's Tremor Slam first instead of Roots. So you just kind of have to adapt on the fly. Ox Statue is down. I'm AoE provoking them, and then I'm going to focus the Scarab so I can get some damage out. Now that we've seen both of the mechanics, process goes out. I'm always going to the center of the room. This allows me to do 2 things. It allows my melee to know where not to be, but it also allows me to get out of melee to use a defensive while melee can still do damage and have uptime. Me being in melee doesn't matter. Now, for things like a Death Knight probably should stay in melee range. I'm speaking out of my ass here because I don't play Death Knight, but like I'd imagine you probably want a Death Strike counter some of those hits from Process of Elimination. You could probably just AMS or Ford or whatever you can. But I like to go to the center of the room as Monk. I don't have to be hitting the boss necessarily to be mitigating damage. I have things like Zen Med available. I have things like Dampen Harm. Of course, Celestia Brew. I can still maintain shuffle from a distance because I can throw my keg. It's not a big deal. Roots are coming out. We're trying to get into a good position here. I'm going to Tiger's Lust our Evoker. I was a little slow on that. I actually missed the key. I missed in terms of like where my mouse was positioned. Anyways, orbs are coming out. The idea is you want to kill the roots before the orbs move. If the orbs move, especially if it's on someone who's rooted, you're just dead. So I go center of the room. I accidentally moved on my Zen Med there. So I actually was late on using my Celestia Brew because I thought I rolled center. I used Zen Med, but then I couldn't see my character because I was like clipping into the ceiling, into one of the banners or whatever that's up there. So I panicked and I strafed. And when I strafed with Zen Med, it canceled. Orbs come out. We're rotating. Notice our range's position here. They're further towards the edge of the room. Melee are more towards the center around this like golden, what's this, a hexagon? As you can see, my statue's down. I'm going to AoE taunt and make sure they're just nice and stacked. Now, these ads eventually enrage, so you do want to kill them. Generally, people don't notice this because you kill them fast enough, but if you're slow on killing the ads, they actually will eventually blow up, which is scary. The weave is just on me. We're going to just focus it down. Orbs come out, and we keep moving. And that's the fight. I mean, nothing to it. Process of elimination is the only thing that the tank really wants to respect. I always go center here. I'm going to pop Celestia Brew. I pop Dampen, and that's going to be the fight. Now, of course, there's other damage instances. You should be using Celestia Brew frequently. You should be using other defensives, or maybe like some of your healing, like Expel Harm, as well as Vivify, often. But we're going to have about a minute left on this key. This is a really good run. At the time, I believe it was US like 160, world like 400. This was over a week ago now. But a very good run, nonetheless. So I hope that made a little bit more sense. I hope this was a more methodical breakdown of everything that was going on in the dungeon outside of like what all the commentaries I've done already. I know I skipped around a little bit, but if you enjoyed, of course, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe, whatever that nonsense is. The unedited version of this with our sound, as well, I should say that my stream audio was fucking up during this run, but I'm gonna have the unedited run fully posted on Patreon for everyone. So just go check it out there. The link is going to be below. And of course, thank you guys so much. Your support allows me to do content like this. So thank you. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.